The example that I use is the ways in which they have deputized a lot of these local agencies, right? So the health department has become an arm of the government. The OSHA has become an arm of the government. The labor commissioner has become an arm of the government. We have been served complaints after my little spiel from every single one of those agencies that I just listed. And when you go back and you try and utilize the legal process to get to the basis of those complaints, you find out that they're all political, and that they are utilizing bureaucratic red tape to try and take out those people who even mere question authority in California.
Part of the weirdness about this was they kept telling us, oh, you know, just do takeout, and don't go to the gym. So now we're not working out. We're, you know, most people, if you think takeout, although you can get all sorts of stuff, it's like you think about Chinese and pizza, and next thing you know, we know that the average person gains something like 8 pounds in the midst of all of this, while comorbidities include diabetes and being overweight.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've said throughout, even pre-pandemic and throughout my career in the food service industry, is it's all about personal, right? And when they try and tell us how many calories we have to put on the menu, or they try and manipulate what ingredients can go into our food, I always remind local health departments and those people advocating for those regulations that, look, this is about personal responsibility. And if we try and this behemoth who is making decisions for people, and we lose that personal responsibility, then, you know, that's a real dangerous and slippery slope that we're on. And I think that we saw that happen throughout the pandemic is that we went from 10 miles per hour to 60 miles per hour when it comes to fundamentally altering the nature of our own personal responsibility.
So are you worried that at any given moment they could just pull more lockdowns? I mean, as we're taping this, we're holding it for a couple of days, but we're taping this on April 15th. That is 2 months to the day of when Gavin Newsom says we can fully open. He is now telling us June 15th. There is no science behind that. Magically, in 2 months, we can open up. Are you worried that, okay, so maybe they do it June 15th, although I remember August 1st, remember that was going to be one of the open ups way back when. But are you worried that, okay, they could open us up and then 2 days people go out, next thing you know on the 18th, here we go again?
Oh, and that will happen. Yeah, I'm not just worried about it. I know it's going to happen, and it's actually changing the way in which I operate as an entrepreneur. Look, the pandemic has been the predicate through which they have decided they're going to change the entire system, right? Whether that's a personal system or whether that's more of kind of an institutional system. We've seen it. And I know that sounds like sensationalism, but it's the reality of the situation. Now, that can be, in one person's opinion, that can be changed for the good. In another person's opinion, that can be changed for the bad. And perhaps you're middle of the road and you say, oh, some changes have been good, some changes have been bad. But nonetheless, it's been a massive change and a fundamental shift. Even we hear it today, right? Now suddenly they want to pack the court with more Supreme Court justices, right? That is a massive change to the very nature of our entire constitutional republic. But those changes have set a new precedent, and we're seeing it, especially in the restaurant industry. And the example that I use is the ways in which they have deputized a lot of these local agencies, right? So the health department has become an arm of the government. The OSHA has become an arm of the government. The labor commissioner has become an arm of the government. We have been served complaints after my little spiel from every single one of those agencies that I just listed. And when you go back and you try and utilize the legal process to get to the basis of those complaints, you find out that they're all political, and that they are utilizing bureaucratic red tape to try and take out those people who even mere question authority in California. And that is an incredibly scary
Did you
thing.
have any actual one-on-one run-ins with any of these regulators or health people or anyone just showing up to your place, shutting you down, anything like that?
Oh yeah, of course, 100%. And I've engaged with them and spoken to them. And what I think is really interesting is they're people just like the rest of us who want to collect a paycheck and want to live their lives. And when you start to talk to them one-on-one to really try and understand, we had a health inspector come into the restaurant 3 days after the incident up at Bravery Brewing, where the lady was apparently dancing.
Yeah, I remember.
But you know, the excuse was, no, I was drying my hands, you know, to the rhythm of air supply. And
because that's what the government should be involved in, figuring out if that's true or not, you know?
Yeah, of course, exactly. I mean, don't get me started on that. So the guy comes in and I said, hey, weren't you here a month ago? And he said, yeah. I said, well, I'm just curious. Why are you coming in again? He goes, oh, well, you know, it was just the routine inspection. And I said, no, it's not the routine inspection. And then he immediately says back to me, oh, I saw your post about the health inspector up in LA, right? As if to kind of trick. I said, what are your thoughts on that? I would love to have your opinion on that. And he gave it to me and he said, well, I think in LA they've gotten a little bit too stringent on X, Y, and Z, et cetera. And he kept it pretty vanilla. But the point being is I saw that, right? That is incredibly odd to me or coincidental. But that's just one little example. We have been hit with multiple OSHA complaints where customers can just say, oh, they're not wearing masks. Then OSHA will give us this complaint, and then we'll have to take the time and the opportunity cost to lay out all the ways in which we are actually following the rules, et cetera, et cetera.
Do you have any evidence that anyone even got sick at any of your restaurants at any point throughout any of this?
Not only has nobody gotten sick at our restaurant, but we have actually none of our employees have had significant COVID spread. We've had maybe 3 cases. And a lot of my contemporaries have told me about having to wipe out their entire staff and shut down for good. And people ask me, well, why is that? Well, within the free market, we have told our employees, if you even feel the slightest bit of a sniffle, if you have a friend of a friend of a friend who contacted somebody with COVID, take off. Do not come to work. Get a test. We'll pay for all of your time off, all of it, 100%. If it's a month, it's a month. We will pay for all of your COVID tests until you can come back. And what that's done is that's allowed a safety system within our restaurants whereby people feel comfortable taking the time off knowing they're going to get paid. Now, have we had people take advantage of that? Yeah, we did. 2 or 3 people. Did we end up getting rid of them for other reasons anyway, or they quit? Of course, you're always going to have bad apples. But guess what? All of our employees have been good. They've all been healthy. We haven't had spread within the restaurants because we mandated that we do that.
Can you talk about how tough it is, just forget COVID for a second, like in normal times, the good old days, just how tough it is to start and continue a successful restaurant before all of this nonsense?
Well, yeah, the biggest issue in the restaurant industry is that you have to have people in order for it to survive. You cannot automate the restaurant industry. Yeah, you can put a kiosk up, but you need people to make the food. You need people to input the numbers. So for us, it's been about managing people. And increasingly over the past 5 to 10 years, what we've seen is just this crescendo of lawsuits associated with the people element. So it's become incredibly risky to even endeavor into the restaurant space. And whether that's third-party lawsuits, slip and fall lawsuits, internal lawsuits, the lawsuits associated with just general human resources in states like California, New Jersey, New York, what have you, that the cost of even doing business is negligible. The only thing that would motivate you to get into the restaurant industry is passion. You almost get into it knowing you're going to lose money. And if you break even, you're happy.
Yeah. So speaking of break even, you ended up helping a whole bunch of people financially in the midst of all this too.
When Newsome shut down outdoor dining the second time, it was right after the holidays, right after every single news outlet was littered with photos of people shopping at Black Friday sales on top of one another, indoors, at Walmart, eating Burger King with their mask off, or eating a hot dog at Costco with their mask off, in the takeout area. I mean, it was like co-ed naked Twister. And outdoor dining gets shut down. That was the only bastion of hope for restaurateurs in California. And they were hiring a lot going into the holidays. So people were feeling kind of good, and then bam, we're going to crush the entirety of the industry. The whole industry is shut down. Oh, and by the way, California's unemployment system is in gridlock because we misappropriated upwards of $50 to $60 billion to destitutes, poor guys, street dwellers, gutter snipes, who knows where, who knows what, right? We completely left people on the streets. And by we, I mean the collective we of the state of California. And Newsome said, if we can save one life, there was no message of hope there, right? That's where I get frustrated with Newsome. So what started to happen with us is that we were kind of known in our own local community as an outlet through which people could get help if they needed it. And people started reaching out saying, I can't pay rent, I can't pay, filed for unemployment, or I'm afraid to file for unemployment if perhaps maybe they were one of the undocumented workers, let's be honest, right? And I can't buy any Christmas gifts for my kids, as I said. So we said, okay, well, look, we've got people calling up talking about writing these $1,000 checks. We don't want to grift for ourselves. We'll get by on our own. But why don't we try and utilize and galvanize some of the attention that we're getting to raise funds for all of those restaurant workers that are struggling right now, whether it's $100 bridge the gap for rent, or whether it's $500 to put food and gifts, under the tree or on the table for the kids.
And you did it. And do you know how many people you helped or how much you raised? Or it was like a whole bunch of different things that you were doing?
Yeah, well, we've raised over $400,000. Wow. We've helped over 1,000 families. We have, my wife, myself, and my kids. I've got 4 kids. They were driving around with me, dropping checks off to people as far north as the Valley and as far south as San Diego. It was funny. This money starts to come in. First, GoFundMe freezes the money. So we had kind of told people, hey, you're approved, you applied, we looked at your system, or we looked at all your references, you're good to go, and then there was no money. So then we tried coming out of pocket for that.
Wait, did they tell you why they were pausing it or shutting you down? Or?
No, it was like it was a glitch.
Yeah,
it was a glitch. And we were frozen for about 3 weeks. So that was really hard on us because the donations kept coming in and we wanted to help people. It was in the holidays. Time was very sensitive. So eventually it was, okay, well, now how do we get this money out, right? You got limits on Zelle, limits on Venmo, limits on Cash App, all of this. So we were trying to run 8 restaurants in the midst of the holidays while we were shut down. Well, we didn't shut down outdoor dining. And then my wife, myself, and my 4 kids with a newborn were driving around Southern California, handing checks out to people or to landlords, because in many cases we were paying people's rent, etc.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.